There is no doubt that most independent authors would love a professional cover design. However, a professional book cover designer typically costs about $500 to $1,000 for a single project. Therefore, as you see in this graphic, only 20% of the authors with earnings of $100,000 or more per year prefer to pay this amount of money. And the majority of emerging authors are more likely to pay less than $50 for their book cover designs. Of course, you can hire designers on talent marketplaces like Fiverr and Upwork for $5 to design book covers for you. Honestly, you shouldn't expect to have perfect or unique book cover designs if you only can pay less. However, these marketplaces can be a good option for you, especially if you publish low-content books on Amazon. I'm sure there are many talented people there too to help with your projects. On the other hand, some of the emerging authors and low-content book publishers on Amazon want to learn how to make better book cover designs by themselves. Or they have no option other than to design the book cover on their own by using online graphic design tools like Canva or professional design tools like Adobe Illustrator. If you are one of them, congratulations, you have come to the right video. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to design a book cover that sells. Keep watching till the end to learn the book cover design techniques you wish you knew. Whether you are publishing high content or low content books on Amazon, people do judge your book by its cover. Since Amazon shows thumbnail cover images in search results, firstly, thumbnail size of your cover should draw the attention of your potential readers or customers among the other books on the search results page. Secondly, when they click on your book, your cover should look professional to increase the conversion rate by evoking a sense of quality. The quality of your book cover design became more important for the low-content books after the last update of Amazon about the Look Inside feature. As you know, this feature is currently not supported for low-content books published without ISBN. Even though it is not good news for low-content book publishers, you can turn this to your advantage by creating stunning book cover designs with some professional design techniques. Let's get started learning these techniques with the focal point. The focal point is the visually most interesting area on the book cover designs. And the objective of having it is to grab our initial attention. If you don't have any focal point on your book cover, your potential readers or customers' eye will scan to find the focal point on the other book covers on the search results page. If they find a focal point, most of the time, their eyes stop scanning to have a closer look at that cover. Let's check how to create a focal point that gets noticed. You can create a focal point either with the title words or an image. And depending on your purpose, you can also use these elements together and have a secondary focal point on your book covers. The first technique of creating focal point is the size of the object on your cover. This object can be your title text, an image, or an illustration. I want to show you an image with text now. Probably some of you already saw it, but it can be interesting if you haven't seen it before. Okay, I want you to read the text now. As it is written, I think most of you read this first, then this one, then this one, and you read this last. There is more than one focal point creation technique used here. You will understand all of these techniques later, but the most powerful technique used here is the size. A larger object tends to dominate smaller and similar ones. In our example here, objects are these texts. And finally, this larger text becomes a focal point. That's why most of you read this one first. As I said, it was not the only reason, but the most powerful reason was it. Okay, now consider this one as a book cover. As you see, we have two objects of different sizes. Here, the bigger text, Self-Publishing 201, dominates the smaller text, and people tend to read bigger ones first. And this makes it the focal point of our simple book cover design. The sizes of your focal point is more important when you sell books online in marketplaces like Amazon, because your potential readers or customers see your books first in their thumbnail sizes. Therefore, if your focal point is text, it should be readable in thumbnail size. And if it is an image or an illustration, it should be visible in thumbnail size. Because of that, you should better to check your book cover designs in thumbnail size before you publish them. The second technique for creating a focal point in book cover design is using contrast. In simple words, I mean the difference. You can create a focal points using contrast in different ways. The first and most commonly used contrast in book covers is the value. It is associated with the darkness or lightness of a color. As you can imagine, the greatest contrast between dark and light will naturally become a focal point. Therefore, if you make the color darker here in our example, the focal points become stronger. Another way of creating focal points using contrast is by having different shapes. Or you can create contrast with the different sizes of the same shapes on your book covers. As an example, imagine your book cover was made of circles, and there is only one square on it. In this case, the square would become a focal point. Or imagine your book cover was made of large circles, and there is only one small circle on it. In this case, the small circle would become a focal point. The third technique of creating a focal point is the placement of the object on your book cover. Your focal point can be anywhere on your book cover design. However, the objects that are placed around the center naturally grab our attention more than the similar sized ones in the different parts of the book cover. In our example, if we move the Self-Publishing 201 text around the center, our focal point becomes stronger. The fourth technique of creating a focal point is isolation. Isolated objects grab more attention than the other design elements on the cover. So, let's turn back to our example. If I wanted the text Self-Publishing 201 more visible here, I would separate it from the crowd. For the moment, there are only two objects here. So, if we make a crowd with similar objects to this small one, our focal point will be more visible. Now, check this. As these objects look similar to each other, our brains tend to consider them as a group, and we focus on the separate one. I copied the same text in this example here, but changing the words in this text will not change the result if the font size and value remain the same in this group. Here, we put our object in white space for isolation. If you don't have enough space to do the same, you can use frames to isolate your objects. You can draw circles and squares around your object to bring attention to it. Okay, the fifth technique of creating a focal point is pointing. Our eyes tend to follow the lines and path of the movement. So if you position your object at the end of the line or path of the movement, you can make a strong focal point on your book cover. In our example, I think we don't need to use a pointing technique to grab more attention, because our focal point is already visible here. However, if I put a line something like this, your eyes naturally will follow it. This technique is more useful when you have some illustrations on your cover. I will show you an example of it in the next chapter of this video. You don't need to use all these techniques together. Just try to combine some of them until you get the best results. Now, I want to show you this image again. I think you understand better now why you read this first. Because its size is bigger than others. It has the greatest contrast between dark and light. It is around the center. It is isolated with white space. There is one more frequently used bonus technique to create a strong focal point. It is using of images of eyes and faces on the book covers. These are much more likely to grab our attention than anything, because wanting to make eye contact with other people is in our nature, and the book cover designers know this very well. When you use images of eyes and faces, the direction of the gaze is also frequently used to express some feeling or point somewhere on the book cover due to our tendency to follow the gaze of others. Like the direction of the gaze, a pointing finger also makes us look in the direction that the finger shows. Therefore, professional book cover designers use images of eyes and face to grab our attention. I will show some examples of it in the next chapter. I want to summarize what we have learned so far by checking the evolution of our simple book cover design. I know it did not become a perfect design because I exaggerated the design a little by using all the techniques. As I said before, you don't need to use all these techniques in the same book cover design. You should use the necessary ones to have a better focal point. So, what we did? First, we increased the size of the text self-publishing 201. Then, we made it darker to make it the greatest contrast on the book cover. Then, we changed its placement and put it around the center. After that, we made a crowd with other objects on the cover and isolated our focal point with white space. Furthermore, we drew a circle around it to make it more visible. I think this was not necessary to do it. And finally, we put it on a line to make the reader's eyes follow it. It was also not a necessary technique to use for this project as it was already visible focal point. Anyway, in the end, it looks better than the first version. What do you think? Okay, now let's take a look at some of the best-selling books covers on Amazon together to see if the professional designers use these techniques or not. In today's video, I just talk about the focal point techniques so far. And this video is the first part of the How to Design a Book Cover That Sells video series. Therefore, we are going to check only the focal points in the examples now. There are many other techniques for creating better book cover designs, and I will mention them in the next videos of this series. By the way, if you liked the video so far, don't forget to like the video, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss out on any future content on my channel. As I said at the beginning of the video, the objective of a focal point is to grab our initial attention. Now, I will take a glance at the Amazon bestseller page and mark 5 books which grab my initial attention. Let's do it. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this. Okay, now let's analyze each of them. Spare. When we see covers like this on the search results page, we subconsciously want to make eye contact with the person on the cover. This one grabs our attention more easily than similar ones, because most of us know him and his face. Needless to say that the focal point is his eyes here. The book has the highest face ratio possible, and we can only see the neck of his basic t-shirt and leather cord necklace. This high face ratio photo with a direct gaze makes us concentrate on only his thoughts and emotions. I can see a hint of a smile on the right corner of his mouth. But he looks serious at the same time. And the t-shirt and the leather cord necklace gives a sense that there is a frank expression inside the book. Finally, I think it's a quite good choice for a book cover and forces its audience to look at him. What do you think? Do not hesitate to write your thoughts in the comments section. The second book is Atomic Habits. The focal point of this cover is the title of the book. It is the bigger text and dominates the others. The contrast with the lighter background makes the text more visible, and the placement of it is in the center. The visual effect on the title text makes it look more professional than a simple font, and the subtitle gives a clear idea about the book. I think there is nothing more to say. All is good and clear on this book cover. The third one is the cover of Creative Act. This one is quite interesting and grabs your attention on the search results page. The focal point is the dot in the center, and isolating with a circle frame makes it a stronger focal point. The dot is placed perfectly in the center of the cover. I think text is consciously made smaller and not visible easily in the thumbnail size, because when you see this simple look cover with a dot in a circle, you wonder and want to have a closer look at it. And I think here, this strong focal point makes its job quite well. The fourth book is Lessons in Chemistry. The focal point is the hair of this young woman's illustration, because this part has the darkest color on the cover, and it is in the center. There's a pencil on it which is pointing to the title. When I check the woman's eyes, the direction of the gaze is to the outside of the book. But I am not sure if it was a good choice or not, because when I follow the direction of this gaze on the search results page, definitely I lose my attention on this book. If we follow the direction of the gaze, it is pointing to the book on the left side. Besides this, I didn't like the color and font of the title text. By the way, I realized that Amazon is selling this book with a different cover design in the UK. Let me show it to you. I think this one looks better. Anyway, maybe I'm wrong. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below which one you would prefer to have. The last one is I Love You to the Moon and back cover. Here the focal point is the moon, because it is the brightest and one of the biggest objects on the cover. Look at the directions of the gaze of the bears here. They also are pointing to the moon. If you check this book on the search results page again, even though the moon is not in the center of the book, the brightness of its color and size of it grab our attention easily. If we compare the direction of the gazes with the previous book, you can see that the way of using this technique is perfect here. Okay, it was the first part of the How to Design a Book Cover That Sells video series. I hope it was worth watching, and it will help you design your book covers more professionally. If you think so, make sure to subscribe and like the video to support the channel. I will try to publish the next part of this series soon. See you soon in the next video.